And welcome to another episode of Over Underrated with the very broad theme this month of US alternative rock. We're going to be talking about whether Pixies are overrated and the Sonic Youth are underrated. And I must issue a correction. In discussing Sonic Youth, I talk about a song that Lydia Lunch did called Girl Boy. I thought she did it with Roland S. Howard. She did not. She did it with the Danish rock band Sort Soul. So there we go. I'm sure there will be more mistakes. Do write in and we'll let you know how at the end of the episode. But in the meantime, rock out and enjoy.
Welcome to the Over Underrated podcast with Fran and Babs. Is it over or underrated?
Welcome back to Over Underrated. It is I, Fran, one half of your production team. And I'm also with my other half of the production team, Babs. How are you doing, Babs?
I am doing good, Fran. I think we are both sweltering in our respective living rooms, but apart from that, I am well. I'm off to Luxembourg with previous guest Paolo for a few weeks soon, which I'm excited about. How about you?
Well, I went to my first concert of the year this month.
Which was?
I saw Sir Robbie Williams.
Oh, how was it?
Well, I don't know if you've watched the news, but you may have noticed that he had a surprise guest.
I did notice.
So on Friday, he brought out five for their. I guess that's their first ever concert with the five of them, isn't it, since the reunion, I guess. And then for us, we had the grime section where he brought out Lethal Bizzle, Wiley, I think Skepta, and did a new Lethal Bizzle track, but no one knew. And it was kind of like it killed the stadium.
Oh, that's a shame because like Wiley has, like Wearing My Rolex and Bossy, which is really good as well.
Yes, I thought they might do like a mashup of like old hits, but no, it's Lethal Bizzle's new track. I think Robbie Williams has done it too, and it's like, okay, Robbie, yeah, you're down the kids, you can rap, well done, but you've just sucked the atmosphere out the stadium. We wanted pop hits, but he brought out Lulu for Relight My Fire, so I got one megastar. But he was a brilliant entertainer. He did skip quite a few tracks I wanted to hear, but yeah, I can't grumble for 2 hours of Robbie. He still got it.
What venue was it at?
It was at the Emirates Stadium in Arsenal, which I've not been before, and it's not. I think it's slightly smaller than Wembley, so maybe 50,000. And at the same time, 4 miles away, we had Beyonce doing Tottenham Stadium.
Yeah, Cabo.
So, but like people saying that she's not selling out, but then I realised he's doing 5 dates in the same stadium. So,
but isn't that because of dynamic pricing as well, as what I've heard, where people, and it made people really angry because I think a lot of people who bought tickets early ended up paying a lot more than the people who bought tickets more last minute. I think it's scandalous. Like,
well, I only paid like £50 to see Robbie, which is
that's not bad.
Cheap for a stadium, surely.
Yeah, that's not bad. Good for him. Yeah, I think my next concert is going to be Turnstile, who I've seen before, and I think I've talked about how it was the most intense gig of my goddamn life, and that is coming after 2 days in a row of basically partying, which is very unusual. Because I'll be in Luxembourg for my high school reunion. So I don't know if I'm going to have the energy to handle Turnstile again.
Is the new album out yet?
I don't think so, because I've been kind of avoiding actually listening, and I'm not a huge fan of the direction that they're going in. And like the 2 or 3 I've heard so far, I'm like, oh, they're going a bit poppy, which I guess kind of makes sense in a way, especially kind of commercially. But the thing is, like, even if I don't really like their new album, it kind of doesn't matter because they're so good live.
And Pulp, well, an album on the 6th of June too.
Have you listened to it yet?
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. It's better than the last album. It's not as good as the classics, but it's a lot better than many other comebacks. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, guys.
Good for them, and of course checking out our previous episode with
please.
talking about Pulp. Yeah. Have you been listening to anything else?
I have been listening to a Swedish band called Broder Daniel.
I think you've mentioned them before.
But I discovered that the lead singer brought out a solo album in 2017, so I had no idea about. And then doing some other research, there was going to be a documentary, and then they couldn't get the rights to any of the songs, and it seems that an evil record company has stolen the rights to the band's output.
It's not just Taylor Swift.
So the lead singer and the band can't be on anything. And there seems to be
No, that's so shit.
like a petition online saying they're not getting any money from Spotify. But
Okay, well, if you're a Swedish fan of Over Underrated, check out that petition then. That's not very fair at all. Well, from my side, on the very commercial spectrum, I've been listening to the new Addison Rae album, Addison, which I don't know if you've seen, has been kind of critically acclaimed as well as
mhm.
commercial. It's very good. I mean, she is Charlie XCX's protege, and it is very interesting because, she's someone who was a TikTok star. Like, I think she might have been, don't quote me on this, but she might have been like the most followed person or one of the most followed people. And she was known for like dancing, but then she pivoted to pop star. I don't think her song Diet Pepsi I included in my best of 2024, but it was really borderline. And, that's now on the album along with some very other good songs. So yes, if you're done with Brat Summer, even and you want a different kind of summer, I do recommend that. Apart from that, there is this. I think she calls herself an alt pop artist called Spider. She's Irish. I think I have this playlist of like bands that I read about or people recommend to me. I put it on a playlist, and then when I have time and patience, I go and check them out. So I put that on there years ago. She has an EP called Hell or High Water, and there's a song on there called America's Next Top Model, which is very good. So I'd recommend that. And I remember today a band that I feel is in the DC Death Rays Tiger Cub vein called D Mob Happy, who I discovered by going to watch Tiger Cub live because they were doing a joint tour. And they're very good. Again, very good rock and roll on the rockier side rather than Cynthia's side of DC Death Rays. So if you like that kind of thing, if you enjoyed us talking about them a few episodes ago, I would recommend checking them out.
Thank you for recommending new stuff. I'm sure we will chat again about these artists maybe at the end of the year.
End of the year. Let's see.
Dun, dun, dun.
But yes, well, end of the year, and we're going back. We're going back to the 80s and 90s. I've titled this US Alternative Rock. Could it be more generic?
Well, I guess it's kind of like the granddaddies of that scene, maybe, isn't it, really?
Indeed. Today we are discussing Pixies as potentially overrated and Sonic Youth as potentially underrated. I think, Fran, you'd wanted to discuss Pixies, right, for a while, if I remember.
So yeah, the Pixies, they are always seen as that band you have to love if you're into alternative rock, especially if you're into the 90s, like grunge. And most bands post 1990 would have to sign off the Pixies as being one of the biggest influences. And then I guess in the late 90s, I would have discovered the Pixies. Most people via Fight Club, some people from the Enemy. And I remember like hearing so much love for them, but I bought the best of the Pixies, and then I discovered that apart from the standout songs, there's a lot of filler. And every time I listen to a Pixies album, there's a lot of filler. And although I would put Doolittle as one of my top 10 albums of 1989, there's still a lot of crap on that. So they're sort of band that people find hard to, slag off but I think that as a back catalogue, I don't think that they hit more than they miss. So and looking at their Spotify hits, they're on a ridiculous amount of plays per month, I believe, and they still play massive concerts and tweeted like gods. So they had almost 10 million monthly listens, which is huge. So yes, I thought I'd have another deep dive into the Pixies and see if I still think they're overrated. How about you, Babs? What are your thoughts on the Pixies?
So I can't remember exactly when I got into Pixies, but Doolittle was a very important album for kind of the shaping of my love for alternative music. And it's one of those albums that I know off by heart. There are definitely songs that I prefer and songs that I don't, and we'll get into it. But like, it is an album I could listen in one go. Kim Deal, obviously a big inspiration as a female bassist, so few women in rock. And of course, I'm sure we'll talk about how well her voice works with Black Francis's voice. Or that's what I think. Well, I know that's what a lot of people think anyway. I think they are one of those bands because they talk about like surrealism and poetic things. If you have those kinds of pretensions to be a bit intellectual, I think you're going to get into them, even though there's a lot of like death and sex and violence also to kind of balance that out. I watched the Trash Theory documentary about Pixies, and it's just like,
Hmm.
yep, he says something like, yeah, Bible stories are the best, so much gore and violence. And there's a quote, I don't know who it's attributed to, but it seems very true of, in 1988, the Pixies sounded like no other band. By 1991, every band sounded like the Pixies. So I don't think Doolittle has filler, but I have to say that beyond Doolittle, there isn't another album of theirs that I love cohesively, even though I haven't gotten into all their oeuvre. Let's say I have been hoping to watch them live for a while because they do tour regularly, and at one point even Blood Red Shoes was supporting them in Brussels, but the tickets are always very expensive and they're always in the bigger, more soulless venues. So that's put me off. I'm hoping that, sometime in future they'll play a venue that I prefer, or they play at a festival or something like that. But yes, I also saw that they had 10 million monthly listens, and I was like, oh yeah, that definitely I think is going to influence me a bit at the end. I mean, you made the playlist, right? So how did you put it together?
Well, I've got a mix of all of most of her albums, really.
Mhm.
Also got a couple of other singers apart from Black Francis, and yeah, it's some songs that I love, some songs that I've only just discovered, and some that I don't like that much.
Mhm.
I have seen the Pixies live. So
Mhm.
when they
How
came
are
back
they?
in 2004, they were the second from top at the V 2004, just before the Strokes.
Mhm.
And I actually looked at the set list. They played 20 songs,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
a lot for. I guess they got short songs.
Yeah.
I was with my then girlfriend who had never heard of them, and she was just baffled by. I guess because I guess she probably thought it'd be like a young cool band like the
Crack,
Strokes,
crack, Crackety
and
Jones.
then
Woo!
some middle-aged guys came on stage who couldn't give a fuck. I think Joey just had a stall the entire time I sat down.
Oh,
But
bless him.
they didn't seem to really care. I remember Black Francis was singing so bad the out of tune it was quite poor. And I
Oh
guess
no.
if you don't know the songs, it's a lot of yelping and screaming and confusion. So even I, who knew the best of, like I was struggling to enjoy half of it. So it wasn't the best time, but at least I can say that I've seen the original lineup, which is something, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you saw that? Well, yeah. So it was with Kim Deal.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I
'cause
mean, that relationship, very. I mean, kind of fuck Black Francis's ego as well. I have to say, it's very depressing. But
it's weird because obviously one of these songs mentions her, but so I don't know what if the
mm,
band because the band said, "Oh, she can come back when she wants." I don't know if that's true. Who knows
mhm.
what their thoughts are these days? But as a lot of the internet says, at least he's in the Breeders, so we've
Yeah,
got two great bands at the same time.
yeah, indeed.
Overrated.
Okay, so what's your first pick from the list?
So my first pick is Gigantic from Surfer Rosa, 1988, which is for many people in America their first hit, I
Hmm.
believe, which annoyed obviously Black Francis because people assumed
Yeah,
that Kim was the lead singer for the band.
yeah.
So yes, I can't even remember Surfer Rosa. I don't know if she sings any other songs apart from this. Do you remember?
On the album, she's more backing singer on the
Mm.
rest.
So yeah, this is co-written by Kindle and Black Francis. Yeah, it's notable for Deal's lead vocals, and she's a great singer. And it is scandalous that she doesn't sing as much as she should, but I guess that's why we have the Breeders. It's got that hypnotic bass line. It's got that raw energy. It's got that catchy, gigantic. Although to me, it says in the lyrics that she's saying "big, big love," but to me, it sounds like she's saying "big, big O." In my head. I can't. To me, it goes big, big. Oh, I can't ever hear the love. To be fair,
Ah, okay. No, for me it was Big Love, but now.
but I'm only. I say it's a bit too simple, and it does repeat too much for me. So I like this, but it's not my favorite all time song on YouTube. A lot of people saying it's their favorite song of all time. This is fair
Mhm.
enough. But I think it's decent and it's worth putting on, because obviously it's Kim's probably most famous song with the Pixies. So I thought I'd
Yeah.
include it. What are your thoughts?
I actually think this is one of their most overrated songs in their catalogue, and never really understood why it was so many people's favorites. In part because of the chorus. I find that I just find it
Mm-hmm.
annoying. You say it goes on for too long, but I think yeah, even one is good. But like the verses are great. I really like how everything in the verses seems to be adhering to a different beat. Like the bass line, her voice, it seems a bit off. And the way their voices come together is amazing. So for this song, and Where Is My Mind, Steve Albini, who's the producer of the album, moved moved Kim, I think, into a bathroom to record the vocals, which is why it sounds so kind of like ethereal, which is quite I find quite interesting.
I also, wondered because I'm like, it does seem to be sexualizing a black man. Is that what it's about? And yeah, apparently it's based on this film called Crimes of the Heart, in which a married white woman falls in love with a black teenager, and it's like deliberately meant to be voyeuristic. So Kim Deal did co-write it, but so did her husband's friend called John Draper, who kept writing out random phrases for her to kind of flesh out the song with, and she kept Big Black Mess and Hunk of Love, apparently. So there we go. But yeah, this is not one of my favorites. Yeah, Surfer Rose is a funny one because I like normally when we record podcasts, I actually prefer if I'm going to go and listen to, like, sometimes I'll do some further listening, but like I was kind of like, I'm looking forward to listening to Surfer Rosa after we do the record. But because I watched the Trash Theory documentary before this, which is, by the way, yeah, guys, it's a very good YouTube channel that does a lot of music documentaries. They've just released one on B52 called B52's Why They Matter More Than You Think. Yes, I will be going to watch that. That is added to my watch later. And they played stuff like Bone Machine. And I love Bone Machine. I mean, especially as a teenager where it's like, oh, this is obviously about sex as well. Oh, my bone's got a little machine. So I feel like I need to give Surfer Rosa another go. Like I said, I think Doolittle, I love the whole album. Inhale, the whole album. All the rest I found quite difficult to get into.
Do you prefer the Gil Norton single or the Steve Albini version?
So I didn't know about the Gil Norton version until today. So I for now I prefer Steve Albini. But let's see. I need to go.
I assume the best of has the single version. I can't remember. But on our Spotify, I gave the original. So moving on to the Wave of Mutilation, which is a track that I can drum and sing at the same time.
Oh, that's impressive.
Although I will caveat only on a game Rock Band.
Well,
it's just close, isn't it?
I can do Little Sister by Queens of the Stone Age, same, but only on Rock Band.
But yeah, I think I rediscovered that track on Rock Band. But yeah, this is enigmatic and one of the most enigmatic, enjoying tracks. It's short, surreal, serene, and yeah, it's a classic hit. It's a driving track with an amazing drum beat. Is it about a Japanese businessman committing suicide or something?
Yes, Japanese businessmen who would commit suicide by driving their cars off a cliff and into the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, it's all there for you guys. But yeah, I think it's a simple rock and roll, perfect introduction to the Pixies. And I think this is the problem maybe is if you've heard a scatter of singles and you've heard Rave of Mutilation and Debaser, you're going to go into an album thinking, oh, right. And then, oh, okay. So maybe that's why when I was younger, I was like, what the fuck? This is not the band I was expecting. So what are your thoughts on Rave of Mutilation?
Again, this is one of my less favorites from the album. So I was like, I thought you were picking these because you also weren't such a fan. I mean,
these are big hits, though, aren't they? Really?
These are big hits. Like, so I would say from Doolittle, because I think this is. Oh no, you have another song from Doolittle, but my favorites are Debaser, Dead, Tame, Silver, and Gouge Away. Gouge Away, especially. Gouge Away, I think, is an all-timer. But the thing is, it's still a good song. It's a song that I would never listen to on its own. But if I was listening to the album as a whole, it is good. And yeah, I'd never paid attention to what the song was about. And there is the first of two Charles Manson links that we're going to talk about today, because there's also one in the Underrated band. Which, did you know about this? About the Charles Manson used to hang out with the Beach Boys, and he wrote a song called "Cease to Exist," and the Beach Boys used it in. From Genius it says, and supposedly the Beach Boys used a lot of his lyrics and gave him a sports car or something.
And R.I.P. Brian Wilson.
R.I.P. Brian Wilson. Yes, of course. I still have not listened to Pet Sounds in its entirety. One day,
I've seen it live. I don't know how much he was singing, but he was definitely there, sat down behind a keyboard.
Okay, yeah. Beach Boys, I would probably class as overrated. So let's get sorry to dig that in, Brian.
People forget the Beach Boys were going for like another 40 years of making music that no one can remember. So yeah, they're more than just the 5 albums that they did in the 60s.
Yeah, I think it's a bit too cheery for me. Some of the, even though God Only Knows is a beautiful otherworldly song, but well, that's a conversation for another time. Being away from Charles Manson and the Beach Boys, back here. But yeah, this is what I really enjoyed reading about, like the Gil Norton versus Steve Albini way of producing in Trash Theories, or where they were like, Steve Albini was being like, I'm an engineer because, being a producer is not cool, man. But Gil Norton was much more polished. Although I did enjoy the story of because I think Gil Norton kept wanting to make longer songs. And am I going to diagnose Black Francis with ADHD because he says that, you know, he likes a long song because he doesn't have the patience, he likes a short song, sorry, because he doesn't have the patience for a long song. And I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe. But yeah, there's a very funny story where, you know, to kind of, because there was such tension about this, Black Francis took Gil Norton to a record store and showed him Buddy Holly's Greatest Hits, and he's like, look, not one song is over 2 minutes, so fucking deal with it. But I do feel like, yeah, while there's definitely amazing stuff on Surfer Rosa, Doolittle is so polished. Like, I think his production does take it up a notch. But so and I just, like I said, you know, even, you know, if I was picking my top 5 songs from the album, this wouldn't be one of them, but it is a good song.
My third pick is moving on to the modern stuff. This is a 2022 from the album Dog Ear, I believe. I don't know.
Doggerel, right?
I had never heard of this until I made the playlist 2 weeks ago. I remember when Pixies came back, I think I checked out new stuff and then I just let them sort of like drift off. So this is called Dregs of Wine, and I thought, yeah, as I said, I thought I'd try some of their newer stuff. But I was actually quite surprised about how good this was. I thought their new stuff may be pretty bog standard, but yeah, this is I was pleasantly surprised. It's got galloping drums. It's got a power rock chorus. It mentions Van Halen. It mentions Bad Times in Hollywood. It's got a great bridge and a cracking chorus. But it has a weird spoken word ending, and you think the chorus is going to come back, and it just fizzles out. So no idea whether that's a great decision or not. But I believe it's Joe Santana's first writing credit with the band. And
interesting. I didn't know that.
It's a late period highlight. So had you ever heard of Dregs of Wine before?
I had not heard. I have tapped out of most of the Pixies' newer stuff. I enjoyed the song. I thought the opening lines about the versions of You Really Got Me were quite funny. I wouldn't have thought it's a Pixies song until the end, because there's such an unexpected change, and I think the time signature is like 13/4. So I enjoyed it, but because it didn't feel like your typical Pixie song, I was like, it's a song by an indie band kind of thing. Like, it didn't have that special something that I think some of the other songs have, in my opinion. But yeah, I wouldn't turn it off, but I wasn't like super excited.
Goes a bit New York Dolls at some point as well, but
we still haven't done an episode of them, so I can't comment because I don't know any of their songs. One day, Fran, one day.
So moving on to Winterlong from 1990, which is a cover, and I am embarrassed to say that I forgot this was a cover until I started doing my research, which is bad because I do own a Best of Neil Young, and it's just but yeah, I wanted to have a different side to the Pixies, so this is more mellow, more sweet than the quiet, loud Pixies that people would always mention. Listening back to both versions today, I will say that the Pixie version is superior.
I agree.
Black Francis and Kim Doyle's vocals just work beautifully together. It's dreamy, ghostly. I love the janky guitars. I can imagine that Teenage Fan Club may have heard this and thought, this sounds like a good idea. But yeah, I think it's a decent cover. And yeah, I said I wanted to have something slightly different than the rest of the tracks that the Pixies tend to do. So yeah, had you heard the song before? Or?
I had not heard the song. I know very, very little about Neil Young. But this was easily my least favorite on the playlist. But then I went to listen to the original. I was like, oh, but this is much better than the original. So at least there's that. Because I actually think their intertwined vocals sound really annoying. It sounds very saccharine and like, na, 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 na. But like at least the song is kind of sped up. It's a bit faster and edgier. And I've written, and I don't really know in what frame of mind I wrote this in. This feels like it would be a good song to soundtrack a nightmare sequence in a teen rom-com. Take that as you feel. I guess because it's so sickly sweet.
Let us know.
Yeah, it's so sickly sweet, but like because there's this kind of edge, you can feel it. I don't know. I can see, two teenagers falling in love, and then it all goes horribly wrong.
Like Twilight feel.
Twilight soundtrack is better.
Well, yeah, there's some cracking songs in that. I don't mind a bit of sweet. I can take some sweet with my salt. So moving on to another track I hadn't heard until this month, which is All I Think About Now from 2016. Head Carrier, I believe. And this is a song written about former bassist Kim Deal,
Mm.
but sung with the new bassist Paz Lenchantin. I never said that word out loud before. Who's no longer with the band. They now have the ex Band of Skulls bassist Emma Richardson as in the band.
I'd
Which is
forgotten
very
that,
strange
actually. Yeah.
since I have seen her play many times down the road.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's got that sick. Well, I think it's got the signature Pixies sound, janky guitar, hypnotic vocals. It's a lot of what ifs and why. I guess it's quite a sweet tribute to Dill, and it also kind of hones back to Where's My Mind with the cooing, the ooh. I guess it's a tribute to Kim Deal. So I thought I would pop it on a playlist and see if you enjoy the new Pixies sound.
So like you, I also hadn't heard this before coming. There is one song that I heard that you've put on the playlist, so I'll talk about that when it comes. So when it started, I was like, well, this is just Where Is My Mind Part 2, because that guitar riff is so similar. And it continues in a similar vein, just a bit rockier. Again, I thought it was fine. When I found out what the meaning was, it then becomes a bit more poignant. But kind of similar to Dregs of the Wine, I'm like, I'm not going to switch it off, but I'm not kind of about to save it and listen to it on repeat. But yeah, it is. I think the lyrics are quite sweet. I remember we were happy. That's all I think about now. If you have any doubt, I want to thank you anyhow. It feels very uncharacteristic for Black Francis shrieking about Bathsheba and the river Euphrates. So it's an interesting direction. Again, it feels poignant that it's a female bassist who's replaced her, who's singing, and not him. Although, would it be better actually if it was a completely different song, if it was just Black Francis singing and it sounded completely something in his style rather than Where's My Mind? I don't know. So yeah, I was like, it's fine.
I wonder if he wanted to be removed from it, so he didn't sing it himself. Maybe
Maybe get too emotional. Yeah,
that's one thing I keep thinking about is like, so obviously the Pixies had they're around for maybe like 6-7 years and did so much in that time. It's like, surely over the past 30 years, Black Francis has written something up there with the original stuff. I've not really heard his solo stuff.
Me neither. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm always curious. Like, what did he on purpose move away from that sound, or had he run out of gold? Listening to the last, I think they've had 3 or 4 albums. They're fine, but nothing's ever close to the original music. So I wonder what's happened really to his songwriting. But I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, there was a line in Trash Theory, right, where when they asked if they would reform Pixies, he was like, "If I'm penniless or a family member needs a kidney." So maybe he's in. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, but are they in Pixies to kind of make money because it is a band that is so popular and with new generations that they can do that, but their heart really isn't into it as much. I mean, from what you said of seeing them live, it doesn't sound like they were really into it, right?
I know that's when it just came back together, but maybe it's still a bit too raw for the band. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, they weren't like, I don't know. Well, who knows if they're happy to play festivals? Maybe they put playing to their own fan base, but yeah, they weren't like they weren't giving a shit about what people wanted to hear. I don't think.
No, I really hope to see them live at some point, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
Over underrated.
So moving on to a track that people may know, Valoria from 1990 is a big fan favorite, one of the most distinctive singles, the lead track from their third album, Bossa Nova. But yeah, it's a bit more surf rock, cryptic, referencing UFOs, hidden civilizations, that kind of stuff that Black Francis likes to chat about. It's punkier than before. It's got a glorious chorus, Valoria. The video is terrible, I will say that. It's quite
shot. Interesting, I found.
But I mean, it is. I remember this from the 90s, randomly. I remember the video more than anything else. It's just all 4 of them in a Croy, maybe, just running in slow motion. And poor Joey leaves the shot after like 5 seconds and doesn't return to him at the end.
I think the YouTube comments are like, this is a video about Kim Deal trying not to fall over or something like that.
Yeah, she seems very happy throughout the whole experience. So yeah, it's a bit different to Chris Martin's slow-mo shot on Yellow running along the beach. But yeah, I guess... But even back then, they were quite big back in the UK back in 1990. But I
Mhm.
guess I guess if you're a band and making music videos, that would have taken them half an hour. So why
They
not?
have very few music videos. That is what was surprising.
Mm,
I think there's 2 in your whole
mm.
playlist that I could find. Oh, actually, maybe I don't know if Indie Cindy has one. I don't think I looked that up.
It did take a backwards music video as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I love the end bass stabs. Kim's sweets, Valoria, but back in vocals. It's reminds me a little bit of the B-52s
Oh,
as
yes, I
well.
wrote exactly the same line.
There we
Exactly the
go.
same line.
There we
They
go.
are more important than you think, guys.
You never say no to B-52s.
Never, never.
Always driving home. But yeah, so Valoria, I put this on rather than Debaser because I think Debaser is probably another song that people have heard thousands of times. But Valoria may be slightly less known than Debaser. I mean, I've never heard
Yeah,
it in
for
the
sure.
disco.
For sure, for sure.
What are
I
your
think
thoughts?
it is a bigger Pixie song, but it's still a deeper cut.
Mm.
Yeah, I really like this song. I with Pixies, again, I think I started with Doolittle, then went to Surfer Rosa, and then I do own Bossa Nova, but I never really got into it. But it was actually a few years ago I was like, again, it's Pixies, you need to be in the mood, let's give it another chance. And I've been enjoying it more, even though again, I think the way that I listen to music, I've listened to like the first half of the album and I really enjoy it, but I made it beyond that. Yeah, I think the song is great. I love Black Francis's Quiet to Screaming is great. The guitar solo that isn't really what you think it's going to be. It feels like it's its own universe. And yeah, my God, reading about what it's inspired by. Yes, it's UFOs, but apparently it's about Black Francis's experience with a girl associated with the Rosicrucians of Northern California, and I was just like reading about this. There's this lost continent of Lemuria, as in the lemurs from Madagascar. Honestly, I wrote out a whole thing about it, and I was like, this is insane. Like this, this sounds like, the interests of a man who's done a lot of drugs, but I don't think he is. That it doesn't seem like that kind of band. But yeah, I again reading about the album, I thought it was interesting because Gil Norton's back. But they had issues because nothing could be recorded after 6 p.m. because the recording desk would pick up pirate radio stations. And he refused to tell the 4AD owner, Ivo Watts Russell, about it. But he talked about it with Rick Rubin, and Rubin had his secretary find him another studio for the group. So it's Rick Rubin who we have to thank for the recording this album, his fingers are in many pies even when he's not directly involved.
So if this was recorded in America, was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
They are another one of those bands American bands who became bigger in the UK first, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Allied Strokes and the Killers and Kings of Leon and many others. And obviously Gil Norton's he's British, isn't he?
Yeah, he is British, which I didn't know until
he does the Foo Fighter stuff.
Yeah.
So next track is an earlier one where we have the holiday song. Mm-hmm. Originally from the EP Come on Pilgrim. It's a cheerful little ditty with a quite a catchy guitar riff. It's interesting lyrics again about, is it incest? Who knows what's happening?
There's incest, yeah.
I reckon that, has he ever written any literature at all or anything? He sounds like he needs his own comic book.
Comic book, that's interesting.
Do you know what I mean? Because he's got quite like he's out there. He could do like a graphic novel from Black France, maybe.
Yeah, team up with So what artist should he team up with to do the graphic novel then?
What, to draw? Or...
Yeah. Or do you think he should draw it?
Quentin from Roald Dahl, what's his name? Quentin Blake.
Oh.
That's the only one I can think of.
Do you know what? That's not a bad. Really? That's not a bad thing. Quentin Blake X Black France.
Hey, who knows? But it's punchy, short, loud. It's got an unhinged vocal. But yeah, I think I hated it when I was younger. Now I don't mind it so much. What are your thoughts?
I was trying to remember whether I'd listened to Come on Pilgrim. I feel like I must have at some point, but this felt new to me. I thought it sounded almost Irish at the beginning. Imagine if that guitar line was the violin. They are from Boston. There's a lot of Irish people. But the band that I got was Echo and the Bunnymen from this, which Gil Norton produced. So I got that before knowing that Gil Norton produced it. Yeah, I love how chaotic it sounds amidst the drums and the rhythm guitar, and especially his voice rising up and screaming. And defo about incest. I mean, it is quite lyrical, as you say. He took his sister from his head and then painted her on the sheets. I mean, I just wish it wasn't his sister. I wish he was talking about someone else. But I'm reading a book at the moment. Actually, this is music related. I'm reading a book that was my mum's called The Insult by Rupert Thompson, which David Bowie named as one of his 100 favorite books. So there is a list out there. And there's incest in that as well. And it's just like, it's just not pleasant to read about. And like, it does feel one of the things where it's like, oh, so edgy. And I'm like, yeah, okay. It feels a bit like edgelord for no reason. So yeah. But I didn't know it played such a pivotal role in the development of Pixies because apparently when Kim Deal went to the audition or went to meet them, she said she heard Black Francis play the holiday song. I said, cool, and I was in. There was not even you're in from them. She just heard them play the song and was like, okay, done.
Yeah, I think they advertise themselves as a band who can't play. And
well, the famous advert, right? The famous advert of like, we want someone who loves Husker Du and Peter, Paul and Mary and has no musical experience. So, they're being deliberately subversive there.
Has Kim Deal ever name checked Sonic Youth? Because I'm reading about these guys, they never actually really mentioned Sonic Youth,
Kim Deal
came slightly before.
They came slightly before, but Kim Deal is on a Sonic Youth song.
Yeah, but does she ever say that she like picked up the bass because of Kim Gordon or anything? Do you know what him?
Oh, good point. Yes, I was thinking that when I was watching because Sonic Youth, it was the first album like 82, 83. I have not done the research, even though, and I will mention it now, my cat is called Kim Gordon Deal after both Kims in both of the bands that we're discussing today. So, yeah, I should know more, but I don't.
It's perfectly fine. We can only do so much.
Indeed.
Moving on to the first comeback song, which is Indie from 2014. And this actually made my best of 2014, surprisingly. It's slightly different to what I was expecting. It isn't so much the quiet loud as much as you thought. I think it's kind of reverse. It's kind of like loud and quiet for the choruses in some way, like the reverse Pixies. So this does have a music video, which is forgettable. But again, it's real cryptic, emotionally raw. I've always liked the line, "Put the cock in cocktail," but he's not the first today, won't be the last. But yeah, it's the first track after Kim Deal left. It's jagged. It's got that alt rock blueprint. But I'm surprised I put it on best 2014 because listening back, it's not as great as I thought it was. Maybe 2014 was a dull year, so not as good as I remember it. But it's perfectly decent. But I don't think it will. If a new fan heard this first, I don't think they'll go crazy for it. What are your thoughts?
So this song, right? I remember the big deal being made about it in the press or whatever. There was such hype. I think because the only other reference to Indie Cindy that I know is Hadouken. I don't know if you remember that girl's an Indie Cindy, Lego haircut and polka dot dress, right? Those are the lyrics.
Yeah.
And because it's Pixies, I was expecting a Pixies sound. And I think it kind of disappointed me at the time. And I think it was maybe the reason I tapped out of trying to listen to Pixies. This time around, I've listened to it several times and I still don't know whether I like it or not. I think there are bits that I like and bits that I don't. And there's definitely this MOR quality in the I Beg for You to Carry Me that I don't like. But I do keep coming back to it and I'm like, yeah, I think it's interesting. But at the same time, it's 4 minutes 41, by far the longest song on your playlist. And you do feel it in a way that normally with Pixies, it normally doesn't give you time to kind of ponder on it too much, and this one does. So, yeah, I feel very conflicted with this song. My favourite lyrics are, "No soul, my milk is curdled, I'm the Burgermeister of Purgatory." No idea what it means, but it sounds nice.
Enjoy. So this next track is probably the most well-known track. This is Where Is My Mind from 1999's Doolittle. Of people of a certain age will remember this at the end of Fight Club. It's got numerous covers. I've probably seen 4 bands play this live, but yeah, it's that haunting ooh. It's a beautiful start to track, and then for me it slightly goes downhill. I love the first minute of Where's My Mind. I love how it's the whole like stop, and then it builds up with the cooing and everything, and then but I think it just runs out of steam after maybe a minute.
You don't like the
it's fine, but I don't know why this is their most famous song. Like if you play the best of, I think it's a decent track, but I think there's songs that stand out far above Where's My Mind. But I wonder if it is things like Fight Club, which has made it such a massive phenomenon. It's also weird, strange, like how it's such a like haunting, epic sort of feel, and it's about him swimming in the Caribbean, having fish attack him. It's like, is that it? Is that the best he got?
That is what inspired him, which is very funny. I didn't know that. I think, yeah. I see, I understand why this is the most famous song. I think it's the most famous song, and the same reason why Creep is Radiohead's most favorite song either, because
Mm,
the chorus is "Where is my mind?" and it sounds like they're going a bit mad. Even the way it begins, where she's like, "Oh, stop!" Like four different things happen in
mm.
like 5 seconds that make you think, "What the hell is going on?" Before it, the beautiful coos, and the bass and the guitar come in. It's so simple, but it's then also not. Like they are just, yes, they are very good at the quiet loud, but they are very good at the, stripping back, coming in all guns blazing. Like I think this works because of that middle section bit that I just sang very badly, where you're like, oh, they've gone a bit rock, but then they bring it back to the basics, and it kind of, I think it makes you fall in love with the song all over again. I did not understand what he was saying after "Accept the Little Fish" until today. I was just like, "Accept the little fish." Blah, 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 blah. So he's saying, "Bump into me. I swear he's trying to talk to me. Say, wait, wait." And yeah, I was trying to think. I don't think knowingly I've seen any band cover this live, but I would recommend people to listen to MIA's $20 as a song that interpolates it in a very interesting way. And just before the recording, Fran was like, "Oh yeah, but that song also absolutely, is inspired by Blue Monday," which I didn't realize either. But if we're saying to you a song that's inspired by Blue Monday and Where's My Mind, you're going to think it's of something, and it's totally not that. So I do recommend
No.
checking that out.
Do you prefer this version to the placebo version as a fan of placebo?
Yes, I do. I thought Placebo's covers album was quite overrated, I have to say. I was
Yeah,
not a
I
big
think the
fan.
running up the hill is overrated. I think.
Yes, yes, yes.
I don't mind Johnny and Mary, but maybe because I don't
Yes,
love it. Maybe
actually.
because I didn't love that song beforehand, so it was maybe
Yeah.
new to me. So where's my mind? You've all heard it.
It has over 1 billion streams on Spotify, which is impressive.
I mean, yeah, out of Ace, we've mentioned that they've got nearly 10 million plays a month. I bet Where's Mine doing a lot of the heavy work there. So the final track, I did change actually. I did have Planet of Sound, and then I quickly changed it to Alec Eiffel. Mainly because I don't remember ever hearing this before.
Me neither,
and that's even interesting because I've got the best of, and this has like the biggest production for music video as well.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh, okay, this is odd. Why have they pumped money into this track? I can't remember. So yeah, it's based on Gustav Eiffel, the guy who made the big tower, and they're in a wind machine because of his aerodynamic pioneering. But I think I just was shocked to hear a keyboard. I was like, holy shit!
Well, it's a zither, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't remember. I just never. I always thought of them as just a four-piece, simple guitar band. So hearing something new was like, oh, I didn't clear this to show that they've got other stuff they could have done. And I put in here, this is the last album, so maybe if they carried on, what other instruments would have they brought into sound? Because it sounds like Devo at one point, or Deus even.
Like, did you in the Tragedy documentary? It talks about how in Monkey Gone to Heaven.
Oh yeah.
There's a string section, but like it was a fight to even have that. So I think they were very like, it must be basic. But yeah, the zither in this is great. Yeah, I never even tried to get into Templement. I don't think I've gone there. I've like, but Bossa Nova is the one I've gone to. But now that I've listened to this, I'm regretting it because I really love this song. I think it's it's really fast, but then it's dreamy, but you always feel propelled is what I felt, literally like they are in the music video. I do wonder if it would sound a bit better if it was Kim Deal singing the Little Eiffel bits, because being Black Francis being the backing vocalist for himself, I don't think this is interesting. I read that I think this song inspired a lot of the output of Danish band Mew. Okay. Really the da 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 bits towards the end really sounded like Mew to me. And yeah, the music video, I thought it was very 90s, even though it was 91. Band playing in a dark smoking room, being lit by fans. Yeah, it does make me think, like, again, for such an arty intellectual band, it surprises me that they haven't done more music videos, because Sonic Youth, who we're going to talk about, like, they have, the music videos are quite interesting, and let's say of all the budgets, from very basic to a bit more big budget.
Yeah, and like my favorite song is probably Monkey Goes to Heaven. I'm not even checked if there's a music video for it, but most stuff online it's just them playing live, isn't it, really?
Yes, yeah, which is really interesting. Like I did for Gigantic, I did watch a live version of it, and yeah, Kim looks so magnetic. I've seen Breeders live, actually.
Ah.
When they were playing The Last Splash in one go, and it's one of the biggest pretentious rooms of people I've ever had the misfortune to watch a band in. The other one being Cat Power. So that ruined it a little bit, but they were very good. They were very, very good. Although again with Breeders as well, I haven't gone much beyond Last Splash. I haven't gone to Pod.
I can't name a song from Pod or anything else or anything. But so what is your view of the Pixies? Because I'm not a massive American alternative music fan as much as I prefer European. In the 80s, 90s, I prefer European music. So when people have said, "Oh, the Pixies are the saviors of that genre," I was like, okay, but I don't adore Nirvana as much as some people do. I prefer New Order and the Smiths and the same sort of bands. So maybe that's why to me they're not as amazing as maybe to other people, because I just prefer the sound of maybe the European bands of that era. And it's interesting also in that documentary where Black Francis said that he got the Quiet Loud from the Cars.
Yes.
Which I thought was quite interesting. So
yes, listen to our episode on Cars, people.
But what are your overall thoughts?
I honestly still don't know, because I think, if I was going purely on this playlist, I would say Overrated, because I only really like, let's say, 6 of the songs on it. But they were such an influential band for me, and I am a big Nirvana fan, and I know that they wouldn't exist without Pixies. It just feels wrong saying that they're overrated. Maybe they are a little bit. Maybe they are, because I don't think they have as much filler as I think you do, but it's definitely not easy to get into. Okay, here's what I'm going to say, and my opinion, my advice. I think Doolittle is absolutely rated. I think there's a reason why it has so much hype, and it's absolutely deserved. Maybe the rest of their stuff is overrated. There we go. Final answer, Gov.
I had a quick scan of Doolittle, and I like 9 out of 15. So if it's an album of 11 songs, then it'd be a 5-star. So I like a lot of it, but there's sort of 6 songs. But yeah.
But do you not feel that with Doolittle? I really feel like it's an album where it's almost a song.
I guess because they're so short, but it can just blast through, and you don't really care if you don't love a song because it's gone after 2 minutes. So that's the bonus for it. But yeah, I mean, that's why I'm a bit disappointed, because they've had 3 or 4 albums since they've come back and haven't really hit the same heights. So I just think they're a decent alternative band, but nothing more than that really. And they're kind of just treading water, really. Obviously, people want to see the Pixies.
And the Caribbean Sea, obviously.
Exactly. People want to see the Pixies because they're a big name band, but I think most people are there just to hear, the tracks from Doolittle, maybe Surfer Rose. So for me, I would say they're overrated because, everyone you meet growing up goes, oh, you got to love the Pixies. You can't slack off the Pixies. But I'm thinking, really, are they that amazing? Not for me.
That's the end of part 1.
Hello, my name is Sam Lake and I am the host of I've Had a Rosé, Let's Talk About Feelings with Sam Lake. This is such a fun podcast. I really love doing it. I think you're going to love it. Every week I am joined by a very funny guest. They talk to me about, firstly, a beverage of their choice. We've all got a fun beverage. Of course, mine is a rosé. I love a glass of the pink liquid and then chatting to my friends. And once we've had a little sip of whatever their beverage is, we get into a topic of their choosing that makes them emotional. The show is all about talking to funny people, performers, entertainers, and finding out how they process their feelings, their emotions. And I have to say, it's already been quite the learning journey for me so far. I've talked to people about how men go to football to express their unexpressed emotions. I've talked about ghosts. I've talked about Kate Nash of Foundations fame. I've talked about how video games can get you invested in a romantic relationship as long as the character that you are romancing has big old hefty natties. Every Tuesday you can expect a new episode with a new funny guest. Do hope you'll join me for a lovely drink and a lovely chat. That's all it is.
Underrated.
So welcome back to part 2. We have pondered on the Pixies, and now we're salivating about Sonic Youth.
Indeed.
Or speaking about Sonic Youth.
Has Adam never said that term? Salivating about Sonic Youth.
What a way to start, and I apologise to everyone. So Sonic Youth are a band that I heard a lot about before I got into them. My friend Mark Abbott, shout out, he did our logo. He put 100% from Dirty on a compilation CD, but I wasn't a huge fan of that song. I actually think there were two different things that got me into them. Firstly, Shazamming Cool Thing from Gilmore Girls, right? Which is a TV show that they were in. If I remember the scene, it's Rory Gilmore looking very angrily into a mirror that, you know, she's angry, I think, with a boyfriend or something, and Cool Thing stops playing. And I was like, oh, this is an interesting song. Oh, it's Sonic Youth. And Kim Gordon's book, Girl in a Band, was pivotal to me because I read it having just broken up with my boyfriend of 11 years, well, mutual breakup. And obviously she talks about her marriage breaking down, and it moved me so much. Like I remember I finished reading it at like 3 a.m. and I was like, this woman is speaking to me. And then I wrote like a letter to my ex-boyfriend that literally the next morning I was like, I'm regretting absolutely everything about this. So yeah, that was my gateway into it. I am not a completist or an obsessive, and I will make that disclaimer because I'm like, if you are expecting that, you're not going to get that from me. And they do seem like the kind of band who do have obsessed completist fans. I really enjoyed. I also saw the Trash Theory documentary about this. The critic from the guy from the record label who's like, "Oh, Sonic Youth, you know, why are record collectors in a band?" Which I thought was quite a funny diss. But it's music where you sometimes need the time or patience, right? Because it's very long songs, sometimes very complex songs. Like I wish I discovered them when I was younger. I think if I discovered them when I was 15, I would have been really into it. The way that I put this playlist together, it's, you know, every song is from a different album because they have 15 albums, so it needed to be. I wanted to make sure there were songs from different albums, different decades with different lead vocalists. Some I really love, some are kind of newer to me as well. And, you know, Fran, I only put 2 really long songs on there. It could have been very different, but I didn't want to talk to you too much either. And I think, you know, presuming that maybe people listen to this, so I think some are going to be Sonic Youth fans, but some are not. I definitely wanted to put some more mainstream songs into there, like Cool Thing, as a gateway song. As I've mentioned, I've named my cat Kim Gordon Deal, and I have seen both Thurston Moore and Kim Gordon respectively live. So I saw Kim Gordon when she was promoting No Home Records, and I'd love seeing her promote the newer album, The Collective. And Thurston Moore was like my final pre-COVID gig. It was February 2020 in this tiny venue in Brussels that he always performs in. And Debbie Gooch from My Bloody Valentine was in his band, and it was it felt like watching the jazz equivalent of noise rock, basically, because it's very long, very trance-like music. It was very interesting. So yeah, I definitely Kim Gordon, more accessible, more my kind of thing, but I'm happy to watch them both live. How about you? What are your views on Sonic Youth?
So I did an 80s and 90s deep dive over the past 2 years, and I have listened to 2 Sonic Youth albums.
Which ones?
Goo and Daydream Nation.
Yeah.
So that's all I've heard. I obviously the song I need most is Teenage Riot, which I used to play DJing. Why is that? Because if you need a piss, it's a great track to put on. All 7.5 minutes long, maybe. But yeah, again, you know, there's a band like the Pixies, who, you know, everyone mentions as being an influential alt rock band, but I think maybe the Pixies had more crossover songs. I couldn't maybe name many songs from Sonic Youth. I knew Cool Thing. That's the only track. That's the only song I knew on the whole
really
playlist. Yeah.
Interesting. I thought you might know Sunday.
Nope. I remember the video, but I don't remember the song. So yeah, there's a band that I've always heard mentioned, but I've never jumped on board really. I guess without Sonic Youth, you may not have shoegaze. So
yeah,
you know. So again, you have to tilt your hat to Sonic Youth, but I maybe prefer the bands who took what they did and went in a different direction.
Yeah.
So what's your first track then?
So my first track is Cool Thing because I think it's one of the most accessible songs, possibly my favorite. I don't know. With me, it depends what mood I'm in, because sometimes I'm in the mood for a little jazz distortion, but this one is not that. I think it's a genius song because it starts out as a fairly mainstream rock song. Okay, her singing isn't so standard, but then there's this breakdown where she speaks singing about male white corporate oppression with Chuck D, and then the instrumental, like Thurston and Lee Ronaldo, the 2 main guitarists, are so good at just kind of dueling with each other and creating these instrumental bits that kind of make you feel something so intense, and then they pull it away, and it goes back to what it was at the beginning. So I love every part of the song. I have learned to play it on bass, really hurt my fingers. I absolutely love how she tuts after saying, I mean, I just want you to know that we can still be friends. It's genius. And I really like the music video, so the song is apparently about an interview. So Kim Gordon interviewed LL Cool J in a magazine, and I think it was very awkward. I think he was a bit distant. And the video was stylized after his Going Back to Cali video, which I haven't seen. And yeah, I find it quite interesting that someone else from hip hop is there. And apparently, again, the Trash Theory documentary was saying that Kim was actually really into hip hop in this period. And apparently in the video, initially, she wanted to wear a beret and carry an Uzi as a self-described poser leftist girl lusting after the Black Panthers, but it was vetoed. And I think that's a good idea, because I think if you actually don't know the context, again, it seems very like sexualizing Black bodies kind of video. And I think you could argue that it is. But I would also recommend to you, Fran, and I almost emailed you about this, there's a live version of this on Hanging with MTV, and Steve Shelley is drumming as if his life depends on it. I think you forget about the drums in this song because the guitars are so good, but go, if you're into drums, go and watch that song because the drumming is just exceptional. And watching that today, I was like, oh, I love this song even more.
He was from a hardcore band, wasn't he?
Yes,
originally?
yes, he was. Yeah, but I think fitted right in, right? Because again, definitely they were being inspired by hardcore bands as well. Husker Du, who again, a band I've tried to get into and I don't really get it apart from Pink Tons to Blue. Inspired both bands that we're talking about today for sure.
Cool thing, I knew the track. It's weird, isn't it? Because watching that video, it reminds me of like The Word. It's like
it's a time capsule.
Dated look. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's a black cat. You've got to love it.
The hardest thing doing this, writing about Sonic Youth is I've got no idea who's playing the guitar on what song.
Well, I think basically Lee Ronaldo and Thurston Moore are the two guitarists, right? So it's like they are. They're the core because Kim Gordon is the bassist, and then latterly Steve Shelley.
But there's no lead or rhythm. They're just intertwine the.
As far as I know, I have not done that much research. I think you'd have to watch them live to know who's playing what.
So yes, I love the guitars, the hypnotic rhythms. I will say again, I think the hook does fall a bit short after a while. I think it could be shorter. Chuck D, when it comes out, was like, oh wow.
Yeah, you weren't expecting him, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think watching a documentary, it mentions that Daydream Nation was produced by the Public Enemy produced, wasn't it?
Yes,
so
it
that's
was.
the link to the hip hop scene. But yeah, I mean that is one of the things I didn't know about the Sonic Youth is how that they're big fans of hip hop and big fans of Madonna. You may not know that.
Yes, we're going to come back to that. We're going to come back to that. Yeah.
So moving on to a different track altogether.
Different tracks altogether. So this is The Sprawl from Daydream Nation. So, I would get Goo and Daydream Nation are definitely two of their most popular albums. Were in 1988, we were in 1990 before. So yeah, Teenage Riot is the more popular song, but I picked this one because I prefer it, and I feel like this is the kind of song that you might think about when you think about Sonic Youth, because it starts in one way and then it goes in a completely different direction and it doesn't really end. It's called The Sprawl, so obviously immediately that makes me think of suburbia, and it does feel like you're driving in a car, the freedom of the open road, even though, Kim's lyrics are kind of, not the happiest ones. But then the chorus becomes so stifling, the more and more and more and more, and then there's an instrumental breakdown and you're like, oh, this is gonna change. Okay, it's like there's going to be a resolution, and there isn't. And I'm like, I quite like that in this song, actually. And in that breakdown bit, the bass is created, I've written an almost wistful atmosphere, but there's so much other noise in the background that you have no break. So it's throwing everything at you. I had no idea what this was about. I think the title is inspired by Neuromancer and another book called Stars at Noon, which is turned into a film with Margaret Qualley and Joe Alwyn. I had no idea. But I think there's a bit of a kind of feminist point from Kim Gordon. So she says it was inspired by old 1960s movie themes of young women growing up in small towns wanting to leave their hometowns behind and be somewhere, anywhere with anyone else. Maybe they'd glimpsed a highway billboard that advertises clothes. Maybe thanks to the machine of consumerism, they felt that they were missing out on something they hadn't even known existed. And what I didn't realize until watching the documentary as well is like how political this was, because this was, the end of the Reagan era. And I think Thurston Moore said that like a lot of it is about kind of the zombie population of being like, USA is great when, Ronald Reagan is out there ignoring AIDS and creating inequalities. So, yes, very interesting. And I had no idea that Nick Sansano was the producer, and how in that documentary, it was interesting how he's like, yeah, you know, Sonic Youth and Public Enemy are coming from the same place, and you're like, oh, really? Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, I can't remember hearing the song, but I must have. 'Cause I remember listening to the album. So yeah, it's interesting because I thought to myself, if they had an editor's version of just Kim's part, would that be a single? Because it's quite catchy as
It is.
that first half. So yeah, it took me a while to get into the second half but then after a while, it meant it kind of reminded me of Mogwai a little bit, and
Yeah, see,
I
that's a
could
band I
take
don't know much about.
and I could take basically really long instrumental tracks with a lot of feedback and a lot of ambient noise. And I guess they've maybe borrowed some stuff. So the second half I liked after further listening. At one point I kept thinking, come on guys, and we can wrap this up now.
See, I thought you would, but I was like, but I have to put this kind of music on here because that is Sonic Youth. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm aware. But it's not like My Bloody Valentine probably have more like just explosions of feedback, so it wasn't. It's still listenable. And so after the couple of listens, I could hear more sounds came to me after a while. So yeah, it's just, you know.
I think that's the thing with Sonic Youth, right? Like you need the patience of re-listening, which I guess maybe will still attract the people who want to be more analog in this day and age. But I have to say, for me, sometimes I will start listening to a Sonic Youth album, and while I was reading Girl in a Band, I was listening as I was reading. So I would kind of soundtrack. You know, it's told in a fairly linear way. So I discovered a lot of songs in that way, which is really good. But it's not like I was listening to each album each time, because there's a lot of albums and sometimes you're just not in the mood.
A lot of comments on YouTube are like, oh, I listened just again after reading the book, and it's really connected to me. So I guess that influenced your players as well.
Definitely. You know, just like, you know, the podcast Song Exploder, right? I don't think there's a song on. So if you don't know, it's a podcast that interviews people who have written normally well-known songs and they break it down. I don't think there's one song on there that I haven't liked after listening to all the reasons behind, you know, the lyrics and the changes. So, you know, either, you know, Kim has a good memory or she wrote good diaries, because there's so much stuff about her, like her moving to New York, her artwork, just even like how unsafe New York was. And I think Thurston Moore was living in Alphabet City and she had to walk him. So it's like you're getting so much more than a music. You're getting the whole atmosphere of the mood, and it just sounds like such an exciting time to be in New York. And so definitely, I would really recommend the book. Like, even if you're even as a book without listening to the music alongside it, it's a very, very good book about being in a band.
So next track.
Okay, so we're staying in the 80s. It is Shadow of a Doubt from Evil with an O from 1986. I'm pretty sure I would have discovered this album and this song while reading the book. This song and Tom Violence from the album are the two that I have saved, so they would have been my two favorites. I know it's got whispering, which I know you don't like, but
It does.
I hoped you would enjoy the quite delicate arpeggio at the beginning, and this is them doing loud quiet. Like, it's not just Pixies. Also, the fact that, you know, the lyrics were inspired by Strangers on a Train, and Shadow of a Doubt is another Hitchcock film. I thought the film person in you might appreciate that.
So, as a Sonic Youth fan, what is the ratio of Kim to the bandmates' vocals? Who does? Because I assumed that Kim was a bit like Kim Deal, and didn't sing that often. So, have you put a lot of Kim Gordon on here because you're a big fan, or does he sing maybe half of the songs usually?
I actually would not be able to tell you because I don't know enough of the discography. So Lee Ronaldo sings on some of the songs, including the next song that they've added to the list. I think I know more Kim Gordon songs because I guess she would have been written about them more in her book, and that's how I got really into the band. I like both their voices, and it's very rare actually that they kind of duet or harmonize or anything, unlike the Pixies. But I really like the way I can absolutely understand that some people would hate it. You know, just like they would hate the Fred from B-52s. But I really like how low it is and how she wavers between whispering and being very low and quiet to sometimes screaming and going for it.
No, I don't mind her vocals at all. I stupidly found a Reddit thread where people were saying that Kim Gordon's the worst part of Sonic Youth.
Oh, fuck off.
And they said that Kim Deal always adds to Pixies. Kim Gordon always takes away from Sonic Youth.
Absolutely. Go fuck yourselves.
That's why I asked. I think, this sounds fine, but
that's misogyny, I think. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even though they say, Kim Deal. No. I don't think that's true. It is true, like that. She didn't have she trained as an artist. I think she even went to art school, if I remember correctly. So she came to New York more as an artist and learnt a lot from Thurston Moore. But I mean, I'm sorry, like I've listened to her solo stuff now. It's fantastic. So absolutely wrong. Denied.
So I don't hate the Whisper. It's not as bad as other candidates like maybe Jarvis. It feels it's got like a tense guitar shimmer. It's quite filmic.
Okay, good.
It's evocative. I said the word hypnotic too many times in my appraisal. I have put down, is this their goth period? Because it is a bit Cure at times, with the drums and guitar sounds.
That is a good point. I mean, like one of the songs later is from '84, and that's with someone who I would say is a bit more gothy. But no, I would say, well, maybe gothic and I think it's too noisy and weird. I think it's not detached from goth, but it's not pure goth.
I didn't hate it. I found it's unsettling, but it's got a lot to enjoy. So moving on to a more modern track.
Yes, 2002, and we're in Karen Revisited. So called presumably because there is a more famous Sonic Youth song from Goo called Tunic bracket Song for Karen about Karen Carpenter, which is haunting. And I don't know if you've seen the music video for that, but you should.
No.
Because that's a song about Karen Carpenter dying from anorexia, basically. And the music video is Kim Gordon basically being Karen Carpenter, and there's like a very memorable sequence where she's singing, but then there's like a skull superimposed over her face. It's so haunting because when you know what the topic is about, and she's surrounded by stuffed animals, which apparently anyway, I would go and check that out. But that was too mainstream. I wanted a long song. This song is long, it's from the 2000s, and Lee Ronaldo is the lead vocalist, which is why I put it. This was, I think, maybe the only song that I didn't know on the playlist before I added it, right? I would think that when you think of like, oh, Sonic Youth being pretentious, this is what you would get, because the song is 11 minutes 10. You know, the first 3 minutes, I would actually say are even poppier than the usual Sonic Youth song, but ha ha ha, that's only 3 minutes. The rest of the 8 minutes, we go into uncharted and unclear instrumental territory, loud, quiet, dreamy, not dreamier, pushing the limits of what you can do with guitars. So, you know, it's one that I've listened to 3 times and I still don't know it because it's so long and strange. But I had to include something like this, and I wanted to include a Lee Ronaldo song on the playlist.
Yes, I think this is my favourite song on the playlist.
No, really?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, especially at the end when he goes like the top hats and tales of thrills, that section.
Yeah.
We kiss, time skipped. Yeah, I love that.
Oh,
that
great.
Last part. It reminds a bit of Guided by Voices, another alternative rock band from America you may like.
Again, one of those bands I heard so much about, could not name a single song.
It's seriously, you need a playlist. He makes an album a year.
Yeah, but I know there's a lot of albums.
It's absolutely fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got it's beautiful guitars, cryptic vocals, it's melodic indie, was surprised to hear, then slowly it sort of drifts into other areas, and yeah, I couldn't get enough of it. And yeah, again, sad to name music video because I really enjoyed this track, and I wondered if Murray Street would be my gateway album into Sonic Youth.
I would have put so much money on this being your least favorite song on the playlist, so I'm so pleasantly surprised. Just because it's so directionless, right? Like I guess if you, let's say, I like the elements that make it directionless, but if you don't, I think one would hate it. But I have not even heard any other song from Murray Street knowingly. So yeah, I think firstly, yeah, if you like this, then I think there's a lot more Sonic Youth to like. But secondly, you should go and watch Thurston Moore live, because that is the vibe. When this is the kind of vibe you get when you go and watch Thurston Moore live.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like long songs that is going all sorts of different directions. Would recommend.
Okay, so on to a song that many people will know.
Yes, and I literally I picked this as a palate cleanser for the previous one because it's a short song. So this is Into the Groovy, which is actually kind of not by Sonic Youth, it's by Chacon Youth. I didn't know the whole story about how it's a collaboration with Mike Watt from Dinosaur Jr., who was suffering from depression, and he played bass on 2 songs from Evil, and they wanted to kind of cheer him up. I think Into the Groove is one of the best Madonna songs, and I really, really like what they've done here. I think this is an excellent cover. It's so sexy and so minimalist. Like, Thurston sounds incredible when he's distorted and when he's not distorted. I love what they've done with the percussion and bass especially, and how sometimes they fade the actual original song into it. And at the end of the songs, it distorts a la Sonic Youth, but somehow makes sense. And I didn't know what their attitude to Madonna was. So in the Trash Theory video, they talk about how they would wear Madonna merch at their concerts around this time and like play Madonna songs on their boombox. And it just made me think like, what a modern band, because, you know, we are in a time now that is meant to be like genreless, etc., etc. But actually, that is what they were doing before. Like, yes, okay, it was very rock oriented, but you can't deny, I think, that there is kind of hip hop influences, you know, not just in Cool Thing. Well, yeah, there's another one coming later that's definitely more hip hop influenced. And the fact that they're like, you know, I think there's a quote from possibly Ronaldo who's like, you know, pop culture is not a bad thing, you know. Yes, they can be a bit of a dense band, and I'm sure that there's some pretentious things that they're referring to. But for them, pop culture, you know, actually, they were maybe the original Brats. No, I'm not gonna claim that far. I'm not gonna claim that far. But yeah, I read this whole quote from Thurston, which I won't read out, which is quite long. But they say that Madonna was in a band called Spinal Root Gang with people who were the members of Swans. And yeah, they loved Into the Groove. And they say, you know, we actually embraced Madonna's Joie Viva celebrity. We did that record and everyone felt we were crazy, and some people lambasted us for giving us some kind of credibility in the underground. But she already had credibility as far as I was concerned. She was already part of the downtown scene. I don't think she capitalized on it.
And this was a cult dance hit in the UK.
Which I didn't know either until the documentary. Yes.
Yeah, I did put. It does feel like they did one vocal take and that was it.
But see, you're not turned on enough by Thurston's vocals. That's why.
No, I don't love this. Well, again, I think it's in that live lounge of like, oh, it's interesting to hear a completely fucked up version of a pop song I love, but would I want to hear it again? Maybe not. Yeah, it's like a sonic sabotage. It's got like weird, odd drum machines, distorted guitar. Yeah, it brings in samples of the original song, which I don't think I've ever heard in the cover before.
No, me neither.
Yeah, luckily Madonna stopped them being sued because she knew them. But yeah, it's a fucked up mess. It's interesting to listen to maybe one or two times. I wouldn't play it again.
That is so so it flips completely. I thought you would love this, and I thought you had the previous song. So fascinating. This is why we do the podcast, guys. Just imagine Thurston Moore's Big Lips singing this song, Fran. That's what I say to you.
Wow. Are his lips as big as Macaulay Culkin now?
No, as we will see later on. Definitely.
Over underrated.
So my next pick is Chapel Hill from Dirty 1992. Arguably 100% and Sugarcane are the better known songs from this album, but I picked this one because it's one of my favorites. And you wouldn't think so, because when it starts, it's almost melodic, but I absolutely love, once again, how many times would I say it breaks down? But it goes into this absolutely frenetic dueling guitar section in the middle before coming back to a final verse, and Thurston's vocal line works absolutely perfectly with the guitars, I think. A bit of a precursor maybe to Instant Street by Deos, I thought, with the kind of, you know, the changes. And it's produced by Bitch Vig, which I didn't know until reading this. And I didn't know the story of it. So it's about the owner of this kind of anarchist bookshop in Chapel Hill called Internationalist Books, who was shot dead. The murder remains unresolved and people think he was executed by the CIA. And the bookshop's in North Carolina, and there's lots of references to North Carolina landmarks and politicians, which, I had not heard of. But what did you think?
I remember seeing this album all the time at work. But I don't think I've ever listened to Dirty, and I love this song.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and I put down, this is a blueprint for Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
And I put down, I love it when the caffeine kicks in and there's a sudden burst of energy at the last minute. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really. I love the guitar sound. I love the vocals. It's almost quite commercial. It's more commercial than I imagined. I assume that their run of albums, Daydream, Goo, and this were the most commercial period.
Yes, and in fact, it's referenced in the documentary because they were with Geffen at that point. Yes. So Geffen was an indie label, but when they signed to it, it became a major label. Like, the distribution was done by a major label, and I think these were maybe the best-selling albums, if I understood correctly. For me, I think Goo was definitely, because I remember there was someone in my school who had a Goo t-shirt. So there was someone in my school who was into Sonic Youth. That's obviously quite iconic. But I do remember the Dirty album cover with the kind of knitted balaclava. Daydream Nation, I didn't know.
So, moving on to the next track.
Yes, we are definitely bringing the hip hop now. It is I Love You, Mary Jane, a song that they did with Cypress Hill from the Judgment Night soundtrack. So this is a soundtrack that deliberately paired rock bands with hip hop bands. So there's Teenage Fan Club with De La Soul, who would have thought, and Slayer and Ice-T. I think, especially when you listen to modern Kim Gordon, like, do you know Bye Bye by Kim Gordon?
No.
It's a very good song. It's the premise of the song is her listing things that she needs to take with her when she's running away. So it's like mascara, vibrator, da ba da ba da ba da. But the beat is sick, Fran. The beat is absolutely sick, and I saw some very funny like reaction videos to that song, being like, "Who is this woman? Is she like a hip hop legend?" And people are like, because it does sound a bit like modern rap, and it sounds a bit like this, and I'm just like, yeah, this is the talent of theirs where they can do a hip hop song, and her voice I think slots in absolutely perfectly. I love how it starts with this pick being dragged hard against the guitar string, but then it goes into, I've called it like a spooky rap song with her vocals. I think it works really well, and I think, again, not knowing all of their oeuvre, I wish they had more songs like this, but I do think Kim Gordon is now doing songs a bit more like this.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Cypress Hill, unfortunately, but you may have guessed that before this happened. Yeah, mainly because of being in high school and college around the time, and people thinking about, oh, they're really cool, they talk about drugs, yay.
Oh, I see. Okay, because I'm quite neutral about Cypress Hill.
So yeah, it's feedback lace guitar textures with less aggressive and normal sounds. It's got stone psychedelic vibes. It makes drugs sound sexy, but don't do drugs, guys. But yeah, I didn't love it, unfortunately. But it did say that this was a nice gateway song for different people, for fans of different genres.
Exactly. Yeah, I think she says that. I remember her saying, was it the kind of now slightly cancelled guy from The Outward said it was like one of his favorite songs.
Yeah.
Like, I think it is a lot of people's favorite Sonic Youth songs because they don't know what they sound like. Yeah.
Have you seen the film? I've not seen the film.
I've not seen the film at all. No. I presumed you might have.
I never even heard of it until yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, the soundtrack is really interesting. I really recommend listening to the soundtrack. I think some songs work better than others.
Right then, so on to Death Valley 69.
Yes, so I picked this song because Kim talked about it an awful lot in the book, and Lydia Lunch is such a pioneer of the no wave movement that Sonic Youth were involved in and inspired by. I didn't know about the terrifying music video, or the fact that Kerrang named it one of the 50 most evil songs ever.
Wow.
Yeah, Lydia's voice is the total opposite to Kim's cool, I don't know if it's a baritone, but let's say the very least alto. And I think it might be a bit repetitive, but I do find it a catchy hook. And this is the second song with the Manson family topics and references. I mean, yeah, how are you in the kind of true crime, these kinds of things obsessive? Because I'm like, it does feel a bit again like edgelord for the sake of edgelord sort of thing. But I think, Kim at least was from California, and when you do see people who, people who were living in that area did know people who'd been kind of like seduced by him. So I suppose that's something. But it's just like, oh, he's a horrible murderer. Can we not? Can we not, guys? Can we not?
Well, people have always had a fascination. I guess back in the 80s, maybe it wasn't out there as much as it is now, and now there's probably like a Charles Manson podcast every day, probably.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I've heard the story so many times that we can move on from the Manson family. But yeah, this track, it is. I put it down. It's creepy. It's nauseating. It's a trip. It's a trip.
But is it evil? Is it evil? Do you agree?
No. Well, maybe it's evil if you see the music video.
Yeah.
It's got like Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe.
I think this is more a goth song as well. So
yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, goths leaving the house covered in blood. It's where noise meets art meets menace. I put
lovely stuff. I
had never heard of Lydia Lunch before.
See, again, so Mark Abbott, shout out again, he'd put Lydia Lunch songs on and Birthday Party as well, which again, proto goths, or maybe even goths. But it's still one of those movements that I haven't properly explored. When that Trash Theory documentary, really, I I watched a lot of it while I was cooking, and it was one of those where I was like, oh, actually, like I wish I could have stopped it a bit more and added more songs. But there were some that I had to, like James Chance and the Contortions. I definitely heard of. I'd heard of the original Blonde Redhead by
Yes,
by DNA that inspired the band that then did 23. But I feel like there are other areas where I know the law, the people. Whereas Lydia Lunch, the only song I know beyond that is the song she did with Roland. Oh my God, not Rivron, Roland S. Howard, Boy Girl. So yeah, and I found that out because of Jenny Beth and Julian Casablancas doing the cover version.
Okay, so moving on to a song with a very famous video. What's next?
So next is Sunday from 1,000 Leaves, 1998. I think this would have been another song and album discovered through Kim's book. And I included it because I thought this is hopefully a more accessible Sonic Youth song, even if the beginning doesn't hint that it's going to be another instrumental breakdown that builds and returns you to normal. Apparently, Lou Reed influences that I don't really get because I'm not a big Lou Reed fan.
Yeah, he's a chilled out guy sometimes.
Is he? Isn't he like a grump?
Yeah, you've heard Perfect Day. I thought I was actually fall to the floor.
True. Oh, now I would love to hear, like, I don't know, Slayer covering Perfect Day. Why not? I did enjoy the Red Nose Day or whatever it was, version 2. But yeah, the video, again, I think like you, I feel like I remember at the very least the still of Macaulay Culkin's face from the music video, but I don't remember it being linked to this song. So yeah, the music video is directed by Harmony Korine and stars Macaulay Culkin. And I think the girl who he kisses in the video is the girl that he married when he was 18 or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, it makes total sense, that music video of like, especially we're so used to now seeing like the child actor, the kind of poor malign child actors being like, fuck you. And it's so Sonic Youth, now that you know them, that they're not gonna, reject pop culture, but they are gonna pick someone, like they're gonna groove on together. I wouldn't have thought I'd see Thurston Moore grooving on down with Macaulay Culkin, and it does feel like a bit of an fuck you to, well, I guess his parents, but also the tabloids, and how I think it was difficult for him to kind of get work when he started aging. But what I found really interesting, right? So there's the version that I put on the playlist, which is 451. The music video cuts that kind of instrumental breakdown bit, but it's in this Richard Linklater film that I'd heard of but I've not seen, called Suburbia, and there's a version that's 8 minutes long, which I haven't heard yet. But I was like, that's so unusual that like the longest version would be not on an album but on a soundtrack.
I remember the video. Probably it was like on MTV, and probably in like the cover of Enemy, because it's like, oh my God, Macaulay Culkin's back and he's in a cool music video kind of thing. So obviously there, the song is not, I wouldn't say throwaway, but it's very different to what you imagine. It's quite subdued. It's got like a jangly guitar, less abrasive than before. I wouldn't put it down as my favourite song on here, but it's nice to hear a different side of Forston. And it says here that some of the guitars were borrowed from the band Helium's song called Skeleton.
Yes, I heard the tune. I was like, I don't know who these people are.
That's right.
I did also read that. Yeah.
Okay, so the final track.
I don't know why I put it last, because it's maybe my least favorite on the soundtrack, but it surprised me because it's Incinerate. It's from Rather Rip 2006. It is one of their most popular songs. It is maybe the most accessible, the most, minimal kind of distortion and madness. There's some cool guitar during solos, but apart from those cool guitar during solos, I think it's a fairly average rock song, but somehow it's really popular. And when you look at the YouTube comments, people are like, wow, they're in their third decade and they're still third decade and still making amazing music. And the music video is done by another kind of cult film director, Claire Denis, who I think her most famous film is Beau Travail, which I only saw this year or last year, and it's incredible. But the music video is, let's say, very experimental. There's so many jokes about like when the operator forgot to turn off the 20 times zoom and stuff like that. The lyrics I think are great. Like it opens with him saying, "I ripped your heart out from your chest, replaced it with a grenade blast." Wow, imagery. Obviously a lot of kind of fire, ice imagery as well. But the song, I'm like, I find it a bit of a shame that this is one of the most best-known Sonic Youth songs, because I think there's not as much to give as basically every single other song I've put on the playlist.
Yeah, I guess sometimes it may be like for a band like that to do a song like this to them is the most experimental thing they could do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
To be that accessible, maybe. It works as a lead single from that, especially from that time period when guitars kind of came back in the mid-noughties. Yeah, it's shifts between jangly and warm, but less experiments, but I don't hate it. It's got a cleaner sound. Thurston's vocals laid back, wistful. It's got steady rhythms. I didn't remember the lyrics, but I thought it was a surprisingly decent track from the third decade. But yeah, it's still it wouldn't be in my top 5 of the playlist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is jangly, so I did think of you as well. But I did put it actually to be like, this is not the Sonic Youth that I like. As difficult as Karen Revisited might be on the first couple of listens, I do prefer that to this.
So, what other stats do we have? How many listens do they have?
They have 1.5 million monthly Spotify listeners. And if you ask me whether I think they're underrated, I think their influence is rated. Like it is quite astonishing, that Trash Theory documentary, when they're like, and these are the bands that have been influenced by them, and it's just so many bands from so many different eras, and it's like they've obviously influenced so many people. So I think, I don't think they can be underrated in how they have influenced people, because I think bands do mention them often, etc., etc. But I do think they are underrated in that I think most people have heard of Sonic Youth, but they wouldn't be able to name one Sonic Youth song or know what a Sonic Youth song is. So I know that it's difficult music sometimes, and it's not very mainstream music, but I do feel that they should have a little bit more mainstream success, like a little bit more mainstream recognition, like listening recognition, not being recognized. Because I don't think any of the top songs that I just named, people, like the average person will know them. Like Teenage Riot being their biggest song, like I like, even when I was getting into them, it took quite a while to get around to Daydream Nation and getting into it. So underrated with the caveat of but kind of course they're not, because they've influenced so many people. What do you think?
I don't listen to Six music, and I assume that's probably the only radio station in the UK where it plays them. But I don't remember hearing any songs ever growing up, and all the songs by Sonic Youth I know I've discovered myself. Yeah, the T-shirt for Goo is probably bigger than any of the songs in the UK.
Yeah.
So there was that, and Teenage Riot was amazing. And then I felt a bit disappointed when I found that they kind of ripped it off from Dance with Junior in that documentary. So it's hard for me, because nothing here wants me to go back and explore the back catalogue. Like I said, I've heard 2 or 3 albums, and I walked away not discovering much, to be fair. I feel like because maybe you've read the book, that's bonded you to the band more than
definitely.
So if I had read maybe Thurston or Kim's or Bogfree, then it might help me get back into them. But yeah, there's no song in here I fucking hate. I discovered 2-3 songs that I've liked. So I liked Chapel Hill, and I like Karen Revisited, and who else did I add to my list? Yeah, well, Cool Thing I already had on there, because that's my best of 1990, and I added Death Valley 69. So I liked 3 new songs. So thank you for letting me discover, and I really really enjoyed that documentary, as per usual. I love the documentary. Hats off to
Trash Theory.
So maybe on the fence for Rated, I would say.
Rated, yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think if if there wasn't a song that you adored, I think calling them Rated is good. But yeah, I think one of the most difficult bands to make a playlist for sure. I think when we discussed that we were doing this, I was like, I need time. I need time to think about what to put on, especially because it's like, I read the book 10 years ago. It is actually the 10-year anniversary this year of the book, and I think there's like a new version with a new chapter. So if it might be the time to go and buy it, support Kim Gordon.
Yeah, no, seriously, I will, because I think they've had obviously a very interesting life. So,
I mean, I do recommend it. As I mentioned, I love to read books about women in especially rock, even if I don't know them. Like reading Skin's book is what got me into Skunk Anansie finally, because hedonism is fine, but there's so much more than hedonism, and I really really enjoyed getting into it. And I think now that that you have a bit of a basis, I think it's much easier to read that book because I really took my time with that book, making sure that I was listening to the songs as I went along. And I think what is also not obvious because Sonic Youth seemed like such a New York band, but she's from California, and reading about that part of her life is super interesting as well. And she's a great writer.
Okay, so Sonic Youth rated, Pixies overrated. Did we say?
Well, I said I was a bit on the fence for that because I said that Doolittle was rated, but the other stuff maybe overrated. So yeah, we're on the fence today. We are sitting on the fence, I think, a little bit between us.
And again, I mean, I'm happy that obviously both bands existed because there's a lot of bands who I adore who have been heavily influenced by their sound. So they without Sonic Youth and the Pixies, there would be no Ride, no Smashing Pumpkins, no Nirvana, etc., etc.
See, Smashing Pumpkins are a band that I am not a huge fan of, and I'm willing to have my mind changed. I feel like there is a 10-track playlist for me there.
Oh, I mean, I'm not like the biggest Pumpkins fan, but out of that grunge era, I found them the most interesting. Maybe because I'm not from Seattle, maybe they had a different, and maybe because he's a fan of like new wave, like the Best Way Duran Duran, etc.
I didn't know that. I think unfortunately Billy Corgan's voice is very whiny. It does put me off.
You'll be happy to find out that people compare my vocals to Billy Corgan.
Oh, okay. Well, commercially successful nonetheless, right?
Which is why I don't sing it often because I know it's terrible.
Oh dear. Well, okay. Well, then maybe the message for today is, guys, go and do some karaoke. My birthday is coming up in a few months, and I was thinking it's been a while since I've done karaoke, and I love to do the pop. And if my friend Riku is there, we always do some of the loudest rock songs that we know, like Slipknot and System of a Down. And I think whatever you sound like, it's good to let it all out and listen to some good music. That's my message for today. What's yours?
That's a beautiful message. I will say, as someone who's just been to a stadium gig, get a seat.
Oh,
do you know what? I sat down. Game changer.
Oh, this is a message from a man in his 40s. I love it. I love it. I think I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet.
No. Well, at a stadium, I would say that because I was still stand up in a normal gig, but in the stadium, when it's like so many pricks completely drunk in front of you and you're struggling to see anything, I thought I basically went to the steward and said, "Please, mate, can I just move?" And let me. But So I will say that I'm happy that for the first time in my life, I had standing tickets and changed it to seating.
And this is why, Fran, according to Spotify for podcasters, the biggest age range, the age range that is most represented who listens to our podcast is between 45 and 59. And we welcome you and we love you.
Talking to, but I've yet to bring a foldable chair to a festival.
See, that
not yet.
I can get on board with. Although, I'm definitely not the fittest person, but it always surprises me when I go to a festival how much I can tolerate standing up for ages. I really, I'm very good at it. I didn't think I would be. What a skill to have, and it's an important skill to have. Guys, we hope you enjoyed the podcast. We hope you continue listening to music and going to gigs where you can. See you next time.
Ta-ta. And there you go. That was our 80s/90s American alternative rock episode. So are the Pixies overrated? Are Sonic Youth underrated? We found it hard to decide, but maybe you can. If you would like to discuss either band or any band we've chatted about in the past few years, please follow us on social media. We are on Instagram at overunderatedmusicpod, and we're also on Blue Sky at oumusicpod.bsky.social. Or if you're old-fashioned, send us an email at overunderatedmusicpod@gmail.com. It was fun discussing, not so much fun having to edit this in a heatwave, but that is the kind of sacrifices we make for our glorious listeners. Until next time, bye-bye.